Mr. H. Back with this week's lesson. It's on domain and range. I want to start with the learning targets. You should be able to state what a function is in your own words. If you're given a graph, you should be able to easily identify the inputs and outputs. And also, when you're given a graph, you should also be able to identify what the domain is for that function and also what the range is for that function. All right. Now, I'm going to start with a review. Domain basically are all of the valid inputs for a function. The range is all of the valid outputs for a function. In other words, it's all of the x values. The domain is all of the x values, and the range is all of the y values. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to find the domain. So first thing I'm going to do is take a picture. And now what I'm going to do is I am going to use a ruler. And this ruler is going to represent, when I make it vertical, it's going to represent all the inputs. And all I have to do is start at the minimum, which is going to be on the left, and keep going until I first hit the graph. When I first hit the graph, I'm going to draw a vertical line there, because that's going to be my minimum. That's my minimum x. Now if I keep going, that's my maximum x. So now the minimum is x equals a negative 10. The max is x equals 6. So if I were writing this in interval notation, because these are both closed circles, I can go bracket a negative 10 comma 6 bracket. Or I can say x must be greater than a negative 10 and less than or equal to greater than or equal to a negative 10 or less than or equal to a positive 6. These are the same thing. Okay, and that's how you find the domain when you have a continuous function. And what I mean by continuous is that there's no breaks or anything in there. All right, so let's go to the next one. So now we're looking for the range. We're going to do essentially the same thing, except now we're going to be looking for the outputs. So I'm going to change this color to green. I need the ruler. So now I'm going to make the ruler horizontal to represent output. And I'm going to start at the minimum, the bottom, and I'm going to go up until I first hit the graph. And I hit it right there. So I'm going to mark this minimum output. That's my min output. Then I'm going to keep going until I hit the max output. And that's an 8. So you just draw a line there. So that's my max. So my minimum is y equals a negative 6. My max is y equals 8. If I were writing this in interval notation, I would go, since they're both closed circles, I would say a negative 6 over to a positive 8. And both of them have brackets because there's closed circles on both ends of that graph. Now, if I were writing this in as an inequality, I would say y must be greater than or equal to a negative 6 and less than or equal to a positive 8. That's it. Okay, let's keep going. So done, delete this, go to the next one. Now this one is not continuous, so we can't just use the interval notation or the inequalities. We're going to have to actually state what the range and the domain are for both of these. But the first thing I want to do, let me take a picture, is I want to use my ruler. I'm going to do red first, and I need a ruler. Make this vertical. I want to see if this is a vertical, if this is a function. So this ruler represents a vertical line. And right here, you can see that that vertical line hits those 2 points. So this is not a function. Now, to find the domain, we're just going to start from the left, and each point, we're going to write the x coordinates. So the first one is a negative 3. The next one is going to be a negative 2. The next one is 1. And the final one is 4. So I would write 4 here. And let me get rid of this. I forgot. And so I would use brackets to indicate that all of those points are in my domain. And to find the range, I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm looking for the outputs. So now I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to move it up. In the very first one, I'm going to write the y coordinate. That's going to be a -4. And then I'm going to go to the next point. That's going to be a -2. Then I'm going to go to the next point. That's going to be 0. My next point is going to be 3. And my final point is going to be 5. Put them in brackets or those little squiggly brackets, and that's it. So that's what you would do when it's a discontinuous or it's not one continuous line. All right, so I got one more that I want to do. Okay, all of the functions that we've looked at or all of the graphs that we've looked at they've started and stopped at a particular point. This one is going forever to the east. So I want to show you how you would do that and how you would write it in interval notation. So let's take a picture. Okay, we are going to need a ruler. Let's check to see if it's a function. It doesn't hit in more than one place, so this is a function. Now, to find the domain, we need to find where it starts. So we're going to move this, and the first time it hits the graph, we're going to write a vertical line. That's our min. And then we're going to keep going until it no longer hits the graph. Now, you see this arrow? It means that it's going to go on forever. But I can stop it here because I know that the max is going to be a positive infinity. So if I were writing this in domain or interval notation, this would be, this is x equals a -5 over here. So I would start with a -5, and it's touching a -5, so I have a bracket, and I'm going to go to positive infinity, and that's going to be parentheses, or I could just go x is greater than or equal to a -5. Same thing. Now, let's go to the range, the outputs. So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to make this green. And first time I hit the graph, what's the output? The output is right here. It's 4. So that's the minimum. And then I'm going to go all the way until I hit the max of that graph. And I'm going to draw another line. And that's going to be my max. And the max is a -2. This is a -4. This is a -2. Now, if I'm writing this in interval notation, I would go a bracket, -4 over to a -2, right? And, or I could say y must be greater than or equal to a -4, and it must be less than or equal to a -2. This is my max. This is my min. That's how you do it, guys. Using the ruler, it's pretty simple. Hope you guys are good, and I hope this helped you.